Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
So that was an absolutely disaster. And to Disney, having a big hit is important because that can feed off of their theme park, merchandise, and also on the board level, there was some chaos. The previous CEO was thrown out. He was the biggest shareholder. Then Bob Iger came in. Well, he needs to prove himself. Right. He needs to prove himself. So our conclusion is basically this is a big gamble. Bob needs to prove himself by doing something. From a financial perspective, which Gabriel will cover in a bit, doesn't make sense. They overpay. From a strategic reason, in 2005, just 1 year before the acquisition, 95% of Pixar's revenue came from Disney distribution. So Pixar definitely need Disney. From Disney's perspective, if you look at the deals that Sony did before, I don't remember what was the acquisition target, but they got a lot out of it. They got the movie rights, they got the full libraries of 20,000 something hours of movies, but Disney's got nothing. They've already got sequel rights for 5 of the 6 movies. They also own some of the movie rights already. And a big part of that premium was paid for talents. So Sean will cover in a bit, bringing talents. That's it. And you want to cover the financial?
Sure. The partnership agreement was running out. There was a 10-year partnership agreement between the two of them, and it was running out.
Exactly. So from a financial perspective, we had a delay in box office to revenue. So we still saw an increase in revenue and even in profit margin, but we saw the box office sales going down tremendously. So they will have a problem 5 years from now. So retrospectively, they will have a problem in revenue decline and also profitability decline. So I think the only reason they did the deal is because they betted on the animation technology to be the next thing in entertainment. So, and the bet the bet obviously was the right bet, but if you look at the Disney perspective from a pure financial perspective, it was like, we have to take a risk here. Otherwise, probably we will go down in 10 years from now. We will be declined in sales and profit. And that's, I think, the reason why they did the deal. If we look at the deal from a private equity perspective, just to buy it and exit it in 5 years, no chance the deal will work. So that's basically the financial side of it. So it was a strategic, like you said, a strategic decision to do that deal, because otherwise the company probably will go down in 10 to 20 years.
Well, in hindsight, hindsight's 2020. They paid 2 or 3 times more than the worth, 2 or 3 times. But the equipment or the technology that the one company had that the Disney didn't have, and I'm not saying that one was drawing it, but I mean almost they were drawing it hand by hand, and the other company, introduced stuff that was Star Wars kind of shit, vis-a-vis technology. It was a terrific acquisition, and it was at the beginning of Iger's reign, more or less. Interestingly, that he's just come back again, in the last few weeks. But he's a visionary, not like you're a visionary, but he is a visionary. And although I'm told, because I know some people that know him, he was enjoying retired life. He wasn't really retired. He was involved in startups and, visionaries kind of stuff, none of which has come to fruition yet. If they had come to fruition, he wouldn't have gone back. But they didn't come to fruition, and they weren't that close, so he said that he could come back, I think, for 2 years or whatever he's coming back for. So Disney was lucky in that regard that he wasn't fully committed. He was only partially committed. Although I believe I say with some accuracy that his contract coming back, he's still got given some time to take care of his little puppies that he started to grow since he left. But and I've told one other group that's doing the same case. The multiples in the public arena are astronomically different than the multiples that I'm training you to pay. And once in a while, you're going to get some dipshit that has got a cousin who's a lawyer or an accountant saying, generally speaking, this healthcare company or whatever it is selling for 19 times EBITDA. And they get that special premium because of the liquidity factor in the public market, okay? The people that you're talking to they have no liquidity, okay? And when you have virtually no liquidity, I mean, it's translated into a much lower multiple, a much lower enterprise value. That only happens once in a while, but once in a while it does happen. I normally give the example on the Beijing and Shanghai market. They're much higher multiples than the Hong Kong market. And from the Hong Kong, they launder money from Beijing, Shanghai to Hong Kong to the London Stock Exchange. And when you start in the Beijing or Shanghai market, it could be 40 times a multiple. But when they get to London, it's 8. But that's how money's laundered by various and sundry groups. But it's a matter of liquidity. There's not no liquidity, but it's much less liquidity in Shanghai and Beijing. There's more liquidity in Hong Kong, and there's terrific liquidity in London. But your guys, once in a while, and hopefully not too often, will try to relate those multiples to your 3 to 5 times or whatever, your embarrassing offer. Okay, what's next?
So one addition, they actually paid a 25% premium on the public valuation on the stock market.
It's a share for share deal, if I remember right. Okay.
So it was basically a rollover equity deal, and they bought the company with about 1 billion in cash in the company. What we saw is that if you calculate it, you will be paying about 30 to 35 times EBITDA in this deal. So it will take like forever to pay it off if there is no strategic thought behind it. So nothing for us as
this is not the kind of deal we do. Strategic bolt-ons, there's no rhyme or reason what value you put on them. I only did a couple of strategic acquisitions, one for personnel. We found out one of the reasons we drilled 22 dry holes in the beginning is our exploration guys were mediocre, okay? They weren't world class. So we went and bought a company in Houston that had world class explorationists that had found oil, which they call grease, that had found, discovered major fields. So we wound up overpaying it for it. And then we made one other strategic purchase that when we bought a drilling company, because, there was a rig shortage, and you paid a premium to get the fucking rigs to your site, and it was easier for us to buy a rig company where we owned and controlled our own market. And we never, in the time I was there, we never, ever drilled a hole for somebody else. We always had plenty of prospects to drill, and one of the reasons we had plenty of prospects to drill is because I was kissing the ass of the Japanese oil company, the Israeli, and all these guys, so we had money when nobody else had money. Although you've heard me on YouTube, they said, well, we don't want to drill with Japanese money. There were still guys that remembered World War II. We don't want to drill Israeli, we don't like Jews. Blah, blah, blah. But then when we were the only company that had money to drill and everybody else was fucking out of work, those Japanese guys aren't that bad, and you make acquisitions as you grow. Now, to make an acquisition in the beginning for some strategic reason, like this morning when she may or may not be your regional manager, that's not such a good idea. Once, I'm just betting that she wouldn't work out, okay? And whether she's going to have another kid again or not, I don't know. But in the beginning, you're not thinking about strategic things until like you just made this, you're making this deal wherever it is, a few hours away. But it's good to look at because that's where you're going. That's where you're going. I'm not suggesting you're going to overpay, but you will overpay. And when you're doing a share-for-share deal, it's monopoly money. I mean, although I forget what the dilution was for Disney, but the major shareholders of Disney approved it overwhelmingly, if my memory serves me correctly. And but there was a dilution. But based on the success they had after the acquisition, the dilution was made up in a short period of time, where the stock went back up and actually increased in value dramatically. But it's one of the cases in the last 20 years it shows, one, a paper deal, they pay more. Okay, this deal happened to work out, and it was the beginning of the jewels in Iger's crown. And he went on to do other deals, not dissimilar, and made him famous, and in some circles, infamous. Correct. That's exactly correct. Correct. So it's, it's like they didn't relate it this way. Paper for paper, seller finance with a big line of credit and a big working capital loan. For free. He wouldn't have been there 12 years for starters if it didn't work out. But I'd rather be lucky than smart. And the funny part about it is, he's not a technology guy that understood what the other company was doing. But his people around him said, they're producing the movies faster, quicker, cheaper, with less manpower, and they all seem to work. Now, the creative part, it was a shot in the dark, but the creation worked. The creative department worked. And I remember there was a documentary many years ago. The creative guys are running around in boxer shorts and T-shirts and flip-flops and hair like Einstein, but they didn't care, You can come naked. You keep producing those movies that are winning Academy Awards and that are box office hits. That's all. That's the only benchmark that anybody worries about or doesn't worry about, holds you accountable. And then towards the end of Iger's career, now it's resurrected, is, he could do, when the creative guys came to him, he approved everything. And, 90%, he had a tremendous positive track record, that 90% of the shit that they produced was extremely successful. Somebody, he's legendary. He's legendary. And he's going to be, I believe, a legendary. Again, I don't think he's going to be able to do it as successfully as he did it the first time, because the industry's moved on. Now, I don't know if what Spielberg says is true, but streaming has killed creative movie production. Now, I don't know what that means, but Spielberg's not an idiot, okay? But it's stifled creative movie production, because now you can stream anything, and whether they go to the box office or not. Now, this recent movie, Black Adam, with Dwayne Johnson, Sally and I watched here, may be a flop, because the initial streaming income worldwide isn't what they paid for the motherfucker. Even though it sounds easy, you just turn on your TV and you pay $20 or $25, whatever it is, and there's a difference between buying it and renting it. I bought it by accident because I pushed the wrong fucking button, and I didn't know enough to unbuy it. And Sally said, "Why are we buying this movie when you can rent it?" Anyway, but the streaming, there's not, even though they had it built up and they put it in movie theaters, it's not the same kind of build up. Now there's that new Avatar movie, which everybody expected, since it's about 8-10 years since the first Avatar movie. They thought it was going to be, everybody thought, all the pundits thought it was going to be Avatar 2. But it's not. It's called 2, but it's not a offshoot of what happened in the first Avatar movie. And so there's a lot of people that are dissonant because it's not, if you remember, in the big final battle scene in Avatar 1, and then the guy that was crippled that became